Hey, hey, welcome, welcome. Tanya Taylor here of Grow Your Wealth. I teach professionals and small business owners how to ditch bad debt and create their 6 or 7 figure retirement income, even if they have no plans in place. And so this week, what I want to talk about is 5 steps that I use to build wealth and continue to use today. And hopefully, from this, you could get the takeaway for you will be that you don't have to have a lot to get started. You just have to start. And I'm going to share some very personal things, just a sort of like how I started, what I did, and how I was able to get to where I am today and just continuing to build. So, if you're watching live, just put live below. If you're watching replay, hit replay. And again, if you're on YouTube, just hit the subscribe button, share it with your friends. And the subscribing will really help the algorithm so other individuals could see my videos. All right. So if you think about me and you think about my life story, and those of you who know my life story, I grew up in Jamaica. We grew up very poor. I ended up coming to America alone at 16 with $100 as an undocumented teen. And all of that happened because we grew up so poor. I had just graduated high school. My parents they weren't able to afford to send me off to higher education. So who knows what would have happened if I just stayed in Jamaica, right? So I had the opportunity to come here and I didn't have any knowledge about money. I did at a very early age. My mom was always ill. And so I ended up like doing all the shopping for the family. And sometimes I forget about that. So it did sort of help me a little bit to understand how to budget, because when my girlfriend and I would go to the market, we always wanted to get things for ourselves too. And so we had to make sure we budget that money that our parents gave us to make sure that we got everything that they wanted in the household. And then we had a little for ourselves. I didn't realize the lesson I was learning then at all. But now I look back and I think, wow, I've been budgeting since way back. We were like 12, 13, 14. We were going grocery shopping for the family at the market. And fast forward to when I came here and I was making $75 a week. I was sharing a room with 2 boys, eventually became 3 boys. And I had to pay the family on a weekly basis a third of what I was making. So literally I was making $50 a week because I paid them. I think I started out paying them 20 and then I paid them $25 a week. And I had to live on that $50, and that included sending money back home to my family. So if you just even think about that from a realistic perspective, I know it was a while ago, but trying to survive on $50, I literally needed to make sure that every penny that I made counted. And I couldn't miss an hour of work, because if I did, that whole $3.75 an hour that I made would be gone. So everything had to be structured in such a way. So how do I go from that to even the idea of building wealth? I think because I came from that, I was just like, I can't stay here. When I came to America, I saw everybody living paycheck to paycheck. And that was shocking for me, because being in Jamaica, when people would return, you thought that they lived this lap of luxury. And then I came here and there was a vast difference between expectation and reality. But I didn't want my reality to be what I saw around me. I wanted it to be something different. And so at 16, with my whole $75 paycheck, I started to budget. But I also had a shift in my mindset because I didn't want to be paycheck to paycheck. So I told myself I had to figure out a way to be rich, right? At the time, I didn't know the difference between rich and wealth. And so I would budget everything. And my first thing was that I wanted to gain knowledge and I wanted to go back to school. So I saved to go back to school out of the $50. Eventually I started making $140. So guess what? I still lived like I was living on that $50. So it was a lot more to save. And so I was able to save more at a faster pace to pay for college. And for those of you who are from the Caribbean, you know, like they have this thing called the susu, or the partner is what we call it in Jamaica. So I would pay into my partner and I would use that to educate myself, because I felt like if I got the education, then I could get a job that pays me better. And that's why I feel like investing in yourself is so critical, because once you do that, it could just open up a whole new world for you. And I really had that shift in mindset where I just felt like there has to be more, and I can get rich, and I just have to figure out how to do that. And so, what my next step was, in addition to becoming educated career wise, was that I also started to try to learn about other things that would be able to build me wealth. And so I set a goal, and I remember saying that I never want to pay rent. That was one of my first thing. I was like, I'm not paying rent. So whatever I do, I'm going to save until I could buy a condo. My goal was a condo. It was never a house, because I couldn't even think that far, to be quite honest. And then I sought out people who had knowledge, and I came across this man in my job, and he started to talk to me about things like life insurance, owning a home, things of that nature. And suddenly, like, this whole world opened up to me where I previously didn't have people to talk to about that. And here was someone who had done it. He had multiple real estate, he had insurance. He even talked to me about the fact that my parents are back home. If something were to happen to me, if I die, let's just be real, how would they get my body? So I ended up at 21, I think, getting whole life insurance. So stepping outside of your current situation, once you shift that mindset and start setting goals. So now, after meeting this man, I was able to cement my goals a little more, because I started to see that it was real, that I could achieve some of these goals. So I stayed living with the family, and there's other things that I won't get into here, which caused me to stay living with them. But then I started to save. And what he said to me when I set my goal and I said I wanted a condo, he said, instead of getting a condo, why don't you get a house, and you can rent a part of the house, and you'll have income coming in, and you can live. He said, get like a two-family house. You could live in a smaller part. It's just you. You'll have someone paying your rent, and you'll have this income. And just like that, I took his guidance, and I eventually, by 25, purchased my first home. And I did exactly what he said. I purchased it so that I could rent a part of it, and I lived on the ground floor. That unfortunately didn't pan out for me. For those of you who know me, you kind of know some of the stories around that, because, just people had ulterior motives, and there was just a lot going on that didn't allow me to get the income from that. But the bottom line is that you don't stay stuck in one place, right? So I talk about shifting the mindset. That was one of the first thing that I did. I talk about getting knowledge. And for me, knowledge is continuous. It didn't stop when I learned how to do the real estate, because obviously I couldn't get the rent from the house, so I had to learn something else. The third thing is that I set goal, and you got to set goals that are measurable. You can measure them. They call them SMART goals. They're very specific. They're measurable. They're achievable. They're time bound. And which one did I leave out? And they're realistic. And the realistic one, or relevant, it may sound so far out sometimes, like me buying a house by 25. That was kind of wild. But if you really line up that goal with your actions, then you realize that you can achieve that goal. And that's why it's so important to actually write things down and put timeline next to it, because even though it may seem unrealistic at the time, if you start slowly working towards it, you will see that it's achievable. So once I realized that my real estate was not going to make me the millions and make me retire from corporate America by 45, because that was my goal, I started to look into other ways to build wealth. And by then, I had graduated from college. I actually had also started a small business that didn't pan out either because it was sold and I never got a dollar out of it. Another long story, but that didn't work. So there were things that I felt like I could control. And so when I graduated college, and it was just like a couple of friends and I were talking, and it was just like, you hear about stock market. I had worked at Goldman Sachs. I hear the bankers talking. I used to read a lot of the stuff, and I realized that you can make money in the stock market. But investing in stocks were not like it is today. You had to pay a fee if you wanted to buy stocks. So I think at the time when we started, you had to pay $25. So if you wanted to invest $100 a month, each time you purchase one stock investment, you had to pay $25. It didn't make sense for me mathematically. So I remember just friends and I were talking. We were like, why don't we start a stock market investment club? Everybody said yes, which was just like so amazing because none of us had any knowledge about investing in the stock market, but we were all willing to learn. And so we took the time to learn how to set up a company because everything needed to be legitimate. So we learned how to set up a company, we learned how to invest in the stock market, and we invited people to join us. And everyone that we invited said yes. And this was the avenue for us to now start building wealth as young corporate people. Eventually, others joined us that were not in corporate. And that's why I will say to you, if you're listening to my voice right now and you think I'm not in corporate, I don't have financial background, there were people in the club that did not have financial background. And I ran the club for several years. And even though I was investing in the club, I also invested personally. And I had my learning lessons. You've been watching me live. I talked about how I kind of wanted to get rich quick and that didn't work out. But once that didn't work out, I regrouped and I really focused on investing because I knew that that would be the best avenue for me. Real estate wasn't going to work because one of the things that happened to me in the process of trying to build wealth and just people sort of manipulating me and my possessions is that my credit kept getting ruined a lot. And so, because of that, each time I tried investing in real estate, it didn't work. So, my only avenue for building wealth, other than creating a business, was investing in the stock market. Now, for me, creating a business, I didn't view it as an option because I wanted time with my family. And I felt like it would take away too much of my time to be having a business and also working full time. My husband and I did have a tax practice together, but most of that was I did it more as a hobby because I like the tax planning piece of it as opposed to the tax preparation. So at some point in time, I was just like, no more tax preparation, take all my clients. And I would focus on tax planning as well as helping like small business owners set up their business, make sure everything is running. But it was really more of a hobby. It wasn't anything I was generating a lot of wealth from. But the one thing that I did is any income that I got from that business, I would take it and I would invest it. So instead of taking that money that was not a part of my salary, I would take it and I would invest it so that it would grow. So for you who are watching, like if you have an income that you're living off right now and you find another way to get some other sources of income, our natural thing to do as our income increase is what? To spend more, to live a more lavish lifestyle. But if you take a step back and you say, I'm going to take this money and invest it to grow more, you will see that that's an easier path to building wealth. And that's what I did as I was getting those funds in. And trust me, it wasn't a lot because I was totally undercharging. It literally was a hobby. And the investing piece, however, I was really, really serious about, and I was very, very consistent about that as well. And it allowed me to build wealth. And the last thing that I did, and you'll hear me talk about it all the time because it's so critical, is that I just continued to invest in knowledge. Yes, I learned a lot in corporate, and I could sort of transfer some of that knowledge to my micro level. But a lot of what I learned are things that I just went out there and sought to learn because I wanted to understand how to apply it to my life. And so now, even in my business, as I'm building my business, I've spent so many tens of thousands of dollars getting knowledge and getting the coaching that I need to help me to build this business, because I feel like if we don't take a chance on ourselves by investing in ourselves, then what? So I'm going to summarize the 5 steps that I used to build wealth, and they don't have to be the same steps or the same sequence that you use, because as life happens, you have to adjust. And my life story is completely different from your life story, but I told you my life story to allow you to see that you don't have to start with anything at all, like literally nothing. But you can still build wealth if you shift your mindset and shift it to a mindset of abundance. If you get the knowledge that you need to move out of your current position and move into another position. And one of the key ways to do that is to align yourself with people who may know. So even if you don't have the money, or if you need to shift career in order to do that, you do that. Then you set your goal that you are really following this goal. So set smart goals and start investing. And investing doesn't have to be in the stock market, right? Investing could be in real estate or all the other types of investment vehicle that are available, including starting your own business. And lastly, very, very crucial though, is investing in yourself. Continued learning, continued growth will pay off, because you will be so much more knowledgeable about the things that you should do and the things that you don't want to do. And if you keep your eyes on that prize, whatever your prize is, then you're going to achieve it no matter what roadblocks come your way. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. If anything resonated with you and you care to share it in the chat, please do. If anything that you want to talk about further, you can definitely reach out to me, shoot me a message, or just let me know. I'm accessible. So just let me know. We can talk. If you're watching this again on YouTube, please share it with anyone that you think can benefit, and I will see you next week.